Estás escuchando Trump100? Well, I think that meant you're listening to Trump 100.
I'll take your word for it.
Yes. Why are we speaking Spanish? Because Trump has been trying to as well. Have a listen to this.
America grande otra vez.
That's Trump saying, make America great again.
That's not bad. You've got to hand it to him. For effort.
Exactly. Anyway, in English, I'm Mark Stone.
And I'm James Matthews.
And this is day 87 of Trump 100. Could a trade deal of sorts between the United States and the UK be on the horizon? Vice President JD Vance certainly seems to think so.
And Biden's back. The former president has made his first public appearance since leaving office. Now, Mark, we were taking the mickey out of him yesterday for breaking a trophy, but as we woke up on Tuesday morning here in DC, Vice President JD Vance, he was saying some very nice things about the UK, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I think that will go down well in Downing Street. JD Vance, when he does put a positive spin on something, I think we can say that is a win because the Vice President likes to speak his mind. He certainly relishes the shock factor. And so his encouraging words about a trade deal or an economic partnership, however you want to look at it, with the UK will have pleased British officials both here in Washington and in London. Speaking to Unheard, an interview with them, a written interview, he said, I think there's a good chance that, yes, we'll come to a great agreement that is in the best interest of both countries.
This has been a long time coming, hasn't it? Britain has wanted a trade deal with the United States since Brexit left us without one. Long before Liberation Day, British trade negotiators, led by the UK's ambassador to the US, Lord Mandelson, they've been negotiating as best they could with the US administration.
Yeah, and we're emphasising trade deal and the difference between that and an economic deal, because remember what Britain really wanted after Brexit was a proper trade deal with the United States. That is not what is being discussed now, but we're talking about an economic deal which would allow Britain to get out of some or all of the tariffs that Donald Trump has put in place. It was the base level of tariffs, kind of a good thing, but it was still tariffs, and we've seen the impact, whether it's on steel, whether it's on Jaguar Land Rover pausing shipments to the United States. We are seeing the impact already. The markets collapsed. That, I think, did focus minds in the White House. Deals stabilize the markets, and so deals are worth doing, and I think Britain is among a few countries that could soon get them. I think the UK feels, certainly the conversations I'm having, they feel pretty positive that despite all the turmoil, or even maybe because of that market meltdown, they are now in quite a good place to get some sort of a deal. In the deal space is the way one person put it to me, and another said, we're in the foothills of a deal.
The foothills, that strikes me as being some distance away.
Yeah, foothills still suggest that there is a
mountain to climb.
Well, right, or at least a hill to climb beyond there. A hill, a path untrodden, an unpredictable path, if we're to continue that analogy. And, Trump is unpredictable. It's hard to know where he will land on whatever issue it might be. Even his own people don't seem to know. Was all this hoo-ha over tariffs just a negotiation? Are these 10% tariffs here to stay? Can they be negotiated down from? I don't know. We don't know. One person, one European diplomat said to me, it's all quite speculative dealing with Donald Trump. And I think that incidentally applies to so many different things with the president. But Vance's comments certainly suggest the door could be open to at least a reduction in the tariffs.
Yeah, we have some idea of what might be on the table in terms of negotiations, don't we? Cars are the big one, as we've said before. Cyber trucks on winding country roads, will we see that?
Well, they're not on European roads precisely because they don't meet European safety standards. And studies do show that EU vehicle standards, which most American vehicles do not meet, quote, offer reduced risk of serious injury. So for now, the UK is aligned with the EU standards, which means that a lot of American vehicles don't make it onto our roads. Food standards is another one. Trump wants the UK to take more US food from US farmers. But with Keir Starmer's government already taking on UK farmers over their tax, will he be willing to flood the UK with American produce and potentially undercut their sales as well? So kind of a game of whack-a-mole, but I think foothills is where we seem to be, with a mountain to climb maybe, or maybe just a small hill. Now, James, earlier today you were out in Maryland, just north of Washington, D.C., because you've got another update for us on the story that we've been tracking here on Trump 100 for quite a while.
Yeah, the case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And, this is as close as we've got to a constitutional crisis, if indeed that's where we're heading for this Trump administration. A reminder about Mr. Garcia. He's the man mistakenly deported. The Trump administration admit that. Deported to El Salvador from the United States, now being held in that notorious mega prison of theirs, while a row goes on here in the United States over whether or not the Trump administration will be forced by the courts to bring him back.
And the case has been heard in Maryland today. I mean, I was struck hearing and seeing his wife for the first time. I mean, it really brings it home to you, the challenges emotionally that she's going through.
My heart aches for my husband, who should have been here leading our Easter prayers. Instead, I find myself pleading with the Trump administration and the Bukele administration to stop playing political games with the life of Kilmar. Our family is torn apart.
Yeah, that's the human face on the story, isn't it? But, Mark, we've both been in a lot of courts in our time. And every time you get the sense, don't you, of ultimate authority, the judge's bench, the jury box, decisions made that are final, for good or bad. Today, in that wood-panelled courtroom, it did actually feel diminished to a degree because of the circumstances that question that ultimate authority and place it in doubt.
Yeah, it's the power, or the lack of power, as we potentially are now seeing, of America's courts.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, the judge in this case told the government lawyers that nothing had been done to return Mr. Garcia. She said she wouldn't stand for gamesmanship or grandstanding, as she put it. She wants the Trump administration to produce documents and have officials set for depositions. She has the power to impose civil contempt orders, and this is where it gets awkward. That could apply, a contempt order, to officials, not to the president. But the dilemma is that federal contempt orders, they're enforced by U.S. Marshals, and they are part of the executive branch. The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, of course, she's welded to Trump and the Trump cause. She could order them not to enforce a contempt order against an official, although that would violate the law. So you could see how messy this could all get. The road ahead isn't straight. No contempt orders yet. That may come in time, but it would be complicated.
Now, Martha is still on holiday, but she's working. Don't worry. She's doing both. She's enjoying her time wherever she is now, touring the national parks of the United States. Here is her latest dispatch.
Yeah, I feel like this is getting a wee bit Michael Portillo, but wanted to give you another chapter from my travel diary. I've just come away from the Grand Canyon, which is honestly one of the most beautiful places I've been in America, truly spectacular. It's one of Arizona's 3 national parks, and outside the visitor centre there was a small group of protesters, most of them workers for the national park or their family members, and they were holding signs, one which said, "We know you enjoy our national parks and monuments. What will you do when Trump sells them to the highest bidder? Because that's his end game."
In public hands!
They're protesting cuts being made to national parks by DOGE, clearly. The administration has already announced a $210 million reduction in the National Park Service budget. These protesters believe that more cuts will be announced in the coming days.
I don't know about you, Mark, but that sense of people on edge because their futures are on the line, I see that all around me. The number of people in that kind of situation is quite some human impact, and that's in this town alone.
Absolutely. And yet, apparently, about half the country are very much behind these profound changes that President Trump is pushing through. And on that note, so many different communities feeling pressure. so much is going on that we don't always have time to talk about all of it. One of those communities is the trans community here in the United States. One of the first executive orders that Trump signed after he came into office said that the government would recognize only two genders, male and female, essentially saying that his government did not recognize trans people. Common sense was the motivator, so said Donald Trump, but the impact on already marginalized communities is psychological, and it is real too. Our Sky colleague, Barbara Serra, has done a really interesting interview with Dylan Mulvaney, the influencer. You may remember Dylan from a Bud Light campaign back in 2023. Bud Light, the beer, of course, which received a huge backlash here in the US from people who objected to the brand collaborating with a trans person. Here's a bit of their conversation.
Well, I think that it's sad. It's a sad thing to see someone trying to take away the rights of humans that are just trying to live their lives. Again, we're not monsters. We're people that have woken up and stepped into our authentic selves.
And you can watch that whole interview online on the Sky News website and on our app as well.
And finally, Mark, we heard from former President Joe Biden. For the first time since he left office today, he was speaking in Chicago at a conference about social security. He had some choice words for his predecessor, Donald Trump.
Fewer than 100 days, this new administration has done so much damage and so much destruction. It's kind of breathtaking it could happen that soon.
Yeah, it was a real blast from the past, wasn't it?
Yeah, he looked fit. An advert for taking 6 months off.
Right, he looked. Yeah, we should take a leaf out of his book. He looked fresh.
If only.
He looked fresh. But a lot of what he said was actually lines I had heard so many times on the campaign trail. We can do anything if we do it together.
We're the United States of America.
Believe in America, all of that stuff.
Yeah, and the same goes for the gaffes, I suppose.
And I'd never seen hardly any black people in Scranton at the time I was only going in 4th grade. And I remember seeing the kids going by at the time called colored kids on a bus going by.
Watching him, I don't think many people will be wishing that he had hung on and run again. He's an elderly man now, but
fitter than he was, still the liability though.
Yep, indeed. Anyway, that is it for day 87 of Trump 100.
But Mark, before we go, let's finish as we began.
Para aquellos que escuchan en español, pueden comunicarse con nosotros en TRUMP100 en sky.uk.
That was brilliant, James.
Google Translate's pretty good, isn't it?
Very good.
For those of you listening in Spanish, you can reach us at TRUMP100 at sky.uk. We'll be back tomorrow for day 88. Ocho.
I don't know what you're saying. Anyway, that is truly it for this episode of Trump 100. Adios.
Yeah, whatever language you're listening in, goodbye. See you tomorrow.
Once upon a time in Mexico, when I was much younger, we were trying to hail a cab. And I don't know why I'm telling this story because it's really embarrassing. We were trying to hail a cab. Finally, we got one. I ran up to the window and I in a confusion, I just said, "Adios, amigo." And he went, "Adios," and drove off. So my languages are terrible.